The football man from the Chicago Tribune, valued member of the station, longtime friend. It's Brad Biggs. Morning, Biggs. How are you doing?
Morning, boys. What's going on?
So, a lot going on at Hallis Hall yesterday. It was a day where they were talking so much, Brad. At one point, Caleb Williams was at the microphone and Jalen Johnson was in the atrium, and both guys were talking to reporters. Lots of interest, lots of rhetoric. What did you learn most yesterday, and how are the Bears handling success?
Well, you just hope that they can turn the page to the Rams, and that they've successfully done that, and that on the heels of such an emotional victory over the Packers, that's not going to be an obstacle for them, right? And what we've heard, I think, is all the right things. We've got to see if that carries through to Sunday night, but that's a challenge, and it's a challenge that I believe the Bears have met by and large for the vast majority of this season. You don't start 0-2 and then rip off 9 wins in 10 games if you're not able to kind of keep each week in a vacuum and compartmentalize things and make the corrections, whether it's on a Monday or a Tuesday, whenever the players are first in for the week, and then turn the page, because that's what they've got to do. They've got to turn the page to meet the challenge of the Los Angeles Rams.
A couple bookkeeping things before we go big picture. When you look at the simulated injury report, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was a guy who is coming out of concussion protocol. Now, I don't know what is official, but he did say it was on the injury report that he was full participant in theory. Does he come back? And if he does, could they use Gardner-Johnson and Kyler Gordon at the same time? And then, Brad, on the other side of the ball, Braxton Jones, do you envision him being used as the third tackle in ways that Theo Benedict was, now that Theo Benedict is starting for the injured Ozzie Trapillo?
Well, let's start with Gardner-Johnson. Yeah, I mean, Dennis Allen has used dime packages much, much more than his predecessor, really more than the Bears have in quite a while now. Are you seeing a ton of it? No. It's going to depend on what they're seeing from the Rams in terms of personnel, and then how specifically they're going to handle the loss of T.J. Edwards, which fortunately DeMarco Jackson has played good football for them. NFC Defensive Player of the Week last month for his big game against the Cleveland Browns. And Gordon should be the primary guy, I would think, but Dennis Allen's got a soft spot for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's been able to have success with him. You just you do not want to see him pressed up on Puka Nacua somehow, though, right? Or Devontae Adams, because that would be one of those deals where I would think you're getting ready to cover your eyes.
As for Braxton Jones?
And with Braxton Jones, yeah, he's the break glass in case of emergency guy here, and you see a smattering of that 6 offensive linemen set. They've done it at times, but like when Theo was starting at left tackle and Ozzie was the 6th guy, he got 2 or 3 snaps maybe. So, yeah, Braxton's got to be ready for more than that, though, because he's going to be the person they're going to turn to if something were to happen to Theo in this ballgame. So hopefully he could easily handle a role where, yeah, he's out there doing a little bit, but this is going to be, his second practice since October today, and hopefully physically he's feeling pretty good.
Brad, when you look at playoff success, when you look at potential Super Bowl teams, it always comes down to this combination of coach and quarterback, or it usually comes down to that. I know there were a couple of really good defenses left in this thing. I'm just curious, are the Bears facing the best coach and the best quarterback in this game?
Boy, that's a good question. you could make a hell of a case that they're facing the best quarterback that's remaining in the playoffs. Yeah, and that's not to knock Drake May whatsoever, but one of those two guys, Matthew Stafford or Drake May, is going to win the MVP award. And if I had to put a $5 bill on it, I'd probably go with Stafford. But it's a bit of a coin toss, and so Stafford's edge, if I'm going to pick one of these two in this postseason, I think is the experience factor. There's not a defense that can do something to him that's going to confuse him. I know that it's not a matchup that would happen, but I'd like Stafford a heck of a lot more going into Seattle to face that defense than I would Drake May in the Seattle in that difficult place to play on the road. And the coach, McVay, he's got a ton of success. We'll have to see, though. This is a Rams team that, it's not unbeatable. This is a Rams team that lost 3 of its final 6 regular season games. Now, you could make a similar statement probably about the Bears, right? And losses at the end of the season. But in mid-November, that Rams team looked like an absolute wagon. It had only 2 losses, and one of them was a 1-point game where they have a field goal blocked on the final play, and the other is a field goal game in overtime. So McVay's as good as they get, and so is Stafford. So this very well could be the best combination. Certainly, best combination when you're using experience as a factor. No question about it.
All right, Brad, let's keep it real. So it's fun to look at the Sean McVay comment about Matt LaFleur, his buddy, and Mike LaFleur, his offensive coordinator, and how that relationship could factor into giving him some intel that might be useful. Do you think that he could get any intel that could be useful? Does that relationship matter this week against the Bears?
I don't know what a 15-minute conversation with LaFleur would tell McVay about the Bears that the people he has working for him are, with the Rams in terms of pro personnel, advanced scouting, his assistants didn't pick up on tape. Like, really? I wouldn't. Yeah. I understand why he was asked the question. Maybe LaFleur's got, hey, here's 3 things that kind of stuck out to me. But the Rams have had so many sets of eyes on the Bears, just like the Bears have had on the Rams, that I'm sure LA's kind of already gotten to all of that stuff. And if those guys are as close as McVay says they are, you'd have to imagine that LaFleur, at minimum, put in a text and said, here if you need anything, buddy, right?
Beware the handshake.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Brad, when you look at this particular game, and I know we talk about the cold and all that stuff. Sean Payton said something yesterday I thought was really interesting. He said that he wanted to preach to the fan. Well, let's take a listen to this.
I think, I keep saying this, for years we were conditioned to raise the noise level when they broke the huddle. The noise level needs to be loudest when they enter the huddle. And then can you do that? Hey, can we do that collectively for 120? No, I don't need it. I just need it for half the snaps in the game, right? So say 65 snaps, 10 seconds. That's a huge advantage.
So he's telling the crowd in Denver how to cheer, and it's a worthy lesson for everyone.
Yeah, no, hey, Broncos earned that number 1 seed, home field advantage, and they're going to need every bit of it, right, with Josh Allen coming in to town this weekend. But yeah, the Soldier Field was extremely loud. on Saturday night. No way around it. Like, it was, they created a serious home field advantage for themselves in that game. And I would imagine that if people aren't too cold this Sunday night, that it'll be very similar.
There'll be loud shivering.
Brad, any insight into the plan to slow down Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams, whether it's Jalen Johnson being more attentive or traveling, or more Tyreek Stevenson because he's more of a physical type corner? Any idea and plan that makes any sense to you?
I don't know. Did you guys see the answer Robert Saleh gave earlier this year about when you have a cornerback travel with a wide receiver? He gave a great answer. It was probably like a minute and a half, but one of the overriding points of what he made is when you ask one guy to do that job, and let's just say it's Jalen on Puka. I'm just for that. In reality, what it does is it makes the assignments for the other guys out there so much more complicated and so much more difficult, and you could end up having guys put in positions where you kind of don't want them. Like, let's say you've got a outside corner that gets pushed into the slot because you're following this one receiver with your defensive back, and it was a really interesting answer. And Saleh said, like, listen, is it something we've done? Is it something we've got in the toolbox? Absolutely. But he gave you a lot to think about with the answer that it's way more nuanced than, hey, we could match our top guy up against their top wide receiver. Here's my big thought on them covering the Rams and an opportunity to win this game. They need the game of the season from their defensive line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Bears' defensive line has to play its game of the season, and we've seen flashes of it here late in that game against Green Bay, late in the season from Montez Sweat, who finished with 10 sacks, and from Austin Booker. Grady Jarrett, I thought, was really active against the Packers. Gervon Dexter has 6 quarterback hits in his last 5 games. That Bears defensive line, to me, is the key to victory, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. The Rams can run the football. They've got the number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the MVP race, and they can also run the heck out of the ball. Like, their 2 backs, I believe, have slightly better numbers than the Bears' 2 backs. I'm talking about Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. They got a few more rushing yards, I think, each. I could be wrong, but it's very close anyway. So they've got a 1-2 punch, and Sean McVay will run the football and stick with it like Ben Johnson will at times. You look at the last 6 games, Los Angeles has averaged more than 30 carries a game. So if the Bears are struggling to stop the run, guess what? They're just going to keep doing it, and then they've got those wide receivers. So there's going to be a huge amount of pressure, I think, on this defensive line, because we've talked about the issues in the secondary and them not being healthy and giving up some big plays and stuff. The first way to kind of match the Rams is to start getting consistent pressure with the front 4.
And I don't doubt that at all. I'm wondering, Ben Johnson at one point talked about the running game, and it's not where you want it to be. When you look at the issues they've had in the running game, and I know there isn't a simple answer to it, but I'm just curious, are we doing a disservice by dismissing it and saying, well, they're getting slow starts? They don't have enough possession of the ball, so they can't run it. Because they do have possession of the ball. They just can't seem to run it. And I'm wondering, Is that in any way connected to issues on the offensive line, whether that is wear and tear, length of season, whatever it might be? Obviously, you're losing a starter now in this game with Ozzie Trapillo going down. I'm just wondering what you believe is the root cause of the sort of issues they've had in the running game after having like a series of games led by the Philadelphia game where they really started running the ball and changing their team.
Yeah, and they ran the ball well after Philadelphia. They ran it, pretty well both times against Green Bay. It took them a while to get going. And I'm talking, when I say both times, I mean regular season.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of factors. It could be that your point that it's late in the season, a little bit of wear and tear. I think the timing has been off just a little bit. You're at the point in the year where you are trying to help the players with rest and recovery, so you're turning toward walkthroughs, and maybe you're not having practices in full pads where you can kind of fit things up a little bit, and it's something that every team's got to deal with. But something's just a little off. I would point out they've played some defenses where you probably felt like they'd want to throw it. The 49ers cannot rush the cannot rush the quarterback a lick, so you're going to drop back and take advantage of that. Detroit had some guys that went down to the Rent-A-DB store, and they had some rentals in the secondary, so you're going to try and throw on them, especially when you're chasing 16-0 into the fourth quarter. And then obviously this last game, when you're down 18 at halftime, you've got to get a little more aggressive with the play calling. So this isn't a major problem, but Ben Johnson acknowledged it's just a little bit off, and you'd hope that they could get that going against LA. Listen, you do not want to be one-dimensional against this Rams defensive line. It's got depth. They've got talent across the board. Right. The Rams sack differential this season, that's sacks for their defense, against sacks given up, they're plus 24, okay? That's a really good figure. The Bears are plus 11, which is good, but the Rams can get after opposing quarterbacks, Byron Young, Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, Fisk, and they're in the middle. They got a whole slew of guys, and so if the Bears aren't able to run the football, it's going to be a real challenge to protect Caleb Williams.
Great stuff, Brad. Have fun at House Hall today.
Thanks, Brad.
Have a great day, guys.